Welcome to The Last Calm Word. Let's begin today's story. It all started with a polite invitation to dinner at Olivia's parents' townhouse. My parents, Charles and Linda, drove 2 hours to be there. They are quiet, practical people who believe family matters should always be handled with respect and dignity. Olivia's parents, Ruth and Tyler, were completely different. They were loud, confident, and acted as though every conversation needed to become a therapy session. The dining table looked like something from a magazine. I expected the usual awkward conversations about the wedding, but I never expected the surprise guest who arrived a few minutes late. "Sorry I'm late," a smooth voice called from the hallway. Before I even turned around, Olivia's face lit up. "Maxwell, you made it!" It was her ex-boyfriend, the man she once called her creative soulmate. He hugged Ruth and Tyler, kissed Olivia on the cheek, and then gave me a casual nod as though we were longtime friends. "I didn't realize this was a full family dinner," he said as he took the seat beside Olivia. Ruth smiled warmly. "Oh, you're always welcome here, Maxwell. You're practically part of the family." Dinner stretched into its second hour. Every time Maxwell spoke, Olivia laughed a little too easily. He shared stories about their college trips, the film sets they worked on, and the festivals they attended together. Every story started with "we" and ended with another reminder of how inseparable they once were. At one point, my father politely asked, "So, you've known Olivia for a long time?" Maxwell grinned. "Oh, forever. I probably know her better than anyone." Olivia smiled at him. "He does. He's seen me at my best and my worst." Then she turned toward me. "You'd probably like him more if you stopped seeing him as my ex." I kept my voice calm. "It's not about liking him. It's about understanding boundaries." Her expression tightened. "Boundaries?" She laughed dismissively. "You really need to stop worrying about things that aren't problems." The table fell silent for a moment. I didn't argue. I simply looked at her, memorizing the confidence in the way she said it. Certain, untouchable. Later, I would realize that sentence was the very first crack in everything we were trying to build. The following week, Olivia and I were sitting in her studio apartment surrounded by wedding plans. She was completely focused, making decisions without noticing the tension that still lingered after that dinner. "Here," she said while circling names on the seating chart. "You'll sit with my parents, and Maxwell will be right next to me at the main table." I paused. "The main table?" "Yes," she replied as if it were obvious. "He's giving a toast after my dad's speech. It's kind of a tradition with our group. He's been part of every important milestone in my life. Birthdays, premieres, everything." I leaned back, trying to keep my voice steady. "Olivia, this isn't a movie premiere. It's our wedding." She sighed. "You're overreacting again. It's not like I'm asking you to dance with him." Just then, my mother, Linda, stopped by to drop off some invitations. She glanced at the seating chart. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "maybe Maxwell could sit with the other friends. It might be less confusing for the guests." Olivia's smile became stiff. "Confusing? My friends all know him." Ruth, who had come with her, immediately stepped in. "Linda, dear, we believe in keeping family close, even chosen family." "Maxwell is family," Tyler adjusted his glasses. "Jerry, trust means accepting the people who matter to your partner." I looked from them back to Olivia. "So, just to be clear, the man who used to date you will sit beside you at our wedding and give a speech?" Olivia folded her arms. "Yes, he's important to me. And if you can't accept that, maybe you're not as emotionally evolved as I thought." Ruth nodded approvingly as though they had rehearsed the conversation beforehand. I didn't respond. I simply nodded once. "Okay, we'll see." I wasn't agreeing, I was observing, because this was no longer about a seat at the table. It was about where I stood in her life. For the first time, I had the sinking feeling that I was sitting in the wrong place. 3 days later, I came home early after a client meeting. Olivia's car wasn't in the driveway, but music was playing inside the house. I walked into the living room and froze. Maxwell stood near the couch, unpacking camera equipment as though it were his own home. He looked up casually. "Oh, hey, Jerry. Olivia asked me to drop this off. I thought she'd be here by now." "She didn't mention it," he shrugged. "We've been editing her short film together. Deadlines, you know." What I did know was that no one should be inside my home without me knowing. "You used her key," he smiled. "She gave it to me a while ago." Relax. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the front door and politely gestured outside. Next time, let Olivia handle her own deliveries. He hesitated, packed his equipment, and left without another word. When Olivia came home that evening, I was waiting at the kitchen table. Why does Maxwell have a key to our house? She slowly set her bag down. He needed access to the studio room for our editing sessions. We live here, Olivia. Didn't you think I deserved to know someone else had a key? Her tone immediately sharpened. You're being controlling again. It's just a key, Jerry. Stop turning everything into a boundary issue. I'm not controlling, I answered calmly. I'm asking for respect. There's a difference. She rolled her eyes and walked away. For her, the conversation was over. For me, another line had been drawn. A week later, we attended a local film event where Olivia's short film was being screened. The room was packed. When she stepped onto the stage, she smiled directly at Maxwell sitting in the front row. I couldn't have done this without my best friend and creative partner, Maxwell. He's been with me through every dream and every disaster. She never mentioned me, not once. I stayed until the applause ended, then quietly walked out. That night, I stopped asking questions. Instead, I started listening to what her actions had been saying all along. 2 weeks later, Ruth invited us both to dinner again. We'd like you both to come on Sunday, she said politely, just to clear the air. My parents came as well. Everyone gathered around the long oak table. Tyler poured wine while trying to sound relaxed. Relationships evolve, Jerry. Don't let insecurity ruin something that could be wonderful. Olivia looked at me. Dad's right. I'm tired of defending my friendships. Maxwell isn't the problem, you are. I'm not defending insecurity, I replied calmly. I'm defending boundaries. Ruth leaned forward. Boundaries become walls. Marriage is about inclusion. Beside me, I could feel my mother's patience wearing thin. She spoke softly. Inclusion is a beautiful thing, but not when it confuses loyalty. Her words landed harder than anyone expected. Olivia's face flushed red. You all act like I'm betraying him. Maxwell is family. He'll be at the wedding, at holidays, probably even helping with projects after we're married. My father asked evenly, and exactly how is that supposed to work? Olivia took a deep breath before delivering the sentence that ended everything. Her voice was steady and loud enough for everyone to hear. My ex will always be part of my life. He'll be at our wedding, in our home, and in our future. If you don't like that, don't marry me. The room fell silent. Ruth nodded proudly as though her daughter had just delivered an inspiring speech. Tyler watched me with the same smug expression, waiting for an emotional reaction. Instead, I remained perfectly still. I looked at Olivia, then at my parents, then back at her. Okay, I said quietly. She blinked. Okay, what? I stood up. Okay, I won't marry you. Then I turned to my parents. Mom, Dad, let's go. We walked out calmly, leaving 4 stunned faces behind. I never looked back. I didn't have to. That night I realized I hadn't lost anything. I had simply stopped pretending I still had it. The drive home was silent. My father kept both hands steady on the steering wheel. My mother stared quietly out the window as though she had expected this ending for a long time. After 10 minutes, my father finally spoke. You handled that well, better than I would have. I'm done arguing, I replied. You can't reason with people who believe respect is negotiable. The moment we reached home, my phone exploded with calls. Olivia, Ruth, Tyler, even Maxwell. Messages flooded my screen. We need to talk. Don't make decisions while you're angry. You embarrassed all of us. I ignored every one of them. Instead, I called Sophia, our wedding planner. Hi, Sophia, it's Jerry. Cancel everything. The wedding is off. She paused. Jerry, the invitations go out tomorrow morning. Stop them, I said, and send all payment questions to Olivia's parents. They were paying for everything. Then I hung up. By the next morning, the angry calls had turned into desperate pleas. Olivia's messages shifted between rage and begging. You can't just walk away. You'll regret this. I didn't mean it like that. That afternoon, she showed up at my house. She still had a key. That mistake would be corrected soon. She rushed inside, red-eyed and shaking. You're really doing this? I stood in the kitchen, packing her belongings into boxes. Yes, you're throwing away 5 years over one argument? I closed another box. No, I'm ending this because you drew the line and I chose my side. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean it. You meant every word. You just didn't expect me to believe you? She fell silent. Her eyes moved slowly across the half-packed boxes. I'll stay with my parents for a while, she whispered. That's best. I'll have the locks changed tomorrow. She left without saying another word. That night, I switched off my phone and sat quietly in the dark. The room wasn't filled with grief. It was filled with peace. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts again. By Monday, everything had started falling apart. The caterer, florist, and venue contacted Ruth and Tyler about cancellation fees and refund policies. Every phone call cost them thousands. I didn't have to do anything. By the end of the week, Tyler called. You can't cancel everything without consulting us. I didn't, I replied calmly. Olivia made the decision when she said her ex would always be part of our lives. I respected her boundary. Now I'm respecting mine. He started shouting about contracts, money, and lawsuits. I stayed calm. You're not suing me for refusing to marry someone. Handle your own bills, Tyler. Then I ended the call. Soon the rumors began. Ruth told people I had suffered an emotional breakdown. Olivia described me as jealous, unstable, and controlling, but the truth spread much faster than their version. Friends compared stories, vendors asked questions, and my silence spoke louder than any argument. People eventually learned about the ultimatum, the dinner, and the calm way I walked away. The sympathy they expected never came. Maxwell disappeared first. He stopped visiting their house. He stopped answering Olivia's calls. The man who was supposedly family suddenly vanished. When I heard that, I didn't feel satisfaction. I simply felt confirmed. Olivia moved back in with her parents. She stepped away from freelance work for several months, saying she needed space. Tyler blamed Ruth for encouraging Olivia. Ruth blamed me for abandoning their daughter. Meanwhile, I focused entirely on my career. I poured myself into a major design proposal for a new community center. Late nights, early mornings, no distractions, no drama. Months later, Olivia sent one final message. I miss what we had. I never replied. Some lessons don't need words. Sometimes silence says everything. By then, I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. The months after the breakup became the most peaceful of my life. I slept better, worked harder, and started eating proper meals instead of living on takeout. My design firm won the Community Center project, the biggest contract of my career. I gave it everything I had. It reminded me of who I was before constant arguments made me question myself. That summer, our proposal received the city's top design award. The mayor's office invited me to a dinner honoring the architecture team. That's where I met Nara, a project manager from the city's planning department. She was intelligent, funny, and refreshingly honest. She asked questions because she genuinely cared about the answers, not because she wanted control. We began seeing each other more often through meetings, site visits, and project reviews. At first, I didn't think much of it. Then one evening, after we finished reviewing plans late into the night, she smiled. You don't talk much about your personal life. I smiled back. That's because I finally have one worth keeping private. Coffee after meetings turned into dinners after work. She listened more than she spoke. And when she disagreed with me, she never turned it into a performance. Everything about her felt calm, genuine, and steady. I wasn't looking for a replacement. I was simply looking for peace. And somehow, she fit naturally into that life. Meanwhile, news about Olivia slowly reached me through mutual friends. Her parents had sold their larger home and moved into a smaller one. The canceled wedding had left lasting financial damage. Maxwell had moved overseas to work with another film director. For the first time, I felt no resentment toward any of them. They had built their lives on appearances. I rebuilt mine on a solid foundation. A year after that final dinner, the city hosted a charity gala inside the completed community center. It was the building's first major event, and I attended as the lead architect. Nara came with me wearing a simple black dress and the same calm smile I had come to admire. As we walked inside, I noticed the catering volunteers preparing food near the entrance. One woman turned toward us. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. Then she looked up. Olivia, She froze. The confident woman who once lectured me about modern relationships looked smaller now. Her eyes were tired. Her smile looked forced. She seemed like only a shadow of the person I once knew. Our eyes met for a brief second. She gave me a faint, polite nod. I returned it. Nara didn't ask any questions. She didn't need to. About an hour later, Olivia quietly approached me. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Olivia. She looked down before meeting my eyes again. You look happy. I am. She hesitated. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I thought you'd bend like everyone else always did. I nodded. You showed me exactly who you were. I finally chose to believe you. She let out a sad little laugh. Maxwell is engaged now. I'm still trying to figure my life out. I hope you do, I replied. There was no anger in my voice, no triumph, only closure. She nodded once. You deserved better. Then she quietly walked away. Later that evening, I gave a short speech from the stage. When you're building something, the very first thing you inspect is the foundation. If the foundation isn't strong, it doesn't matter how beautiful the building looks, it won't last. The audience applauded. Across the room, my eyes met Nara's. She smiled with quiet pride. In that moment, I knew every door that needed to close had finally closed. The night ended the same way the story had begun, around a dinner table, but this time it was my table. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. Wishing you happiness, good health, and all the very best. Take care.